Francesca Paola Di Maria, and Carmela Polizzi. We are officers of the social services of USM in Palermo. USM is a child service of the Department of the Juvenile Protection Service. It is a service present all over Italy with professional autonomy in terms of competencies for juvenile court and the judicial authority, and the activities for children who belong to the district of the Court of Appeal. And this means that our service is concerned with the children in this province and in the similar provinces. We have the headquarters in Palermo. We also have offices in Trapani for the work on the territory. The activity of our service, USM, concerns children in the criminal circuit, and the age is starting from 14 years and until 25 years. A few years ago, it was until 21 years, but now it is until 25 years, in order to assure a continuity of treatment for children, for minors, in order to avoid difficulties that can concern the translation from juvenile facilities to adult facilities. So, adolescence is an age in which people are in development, and so crimes are committed in a moment of difficulty. There is a path of growth, and so the transition to the adult facilities might stigmatize the institutional activities of USM are linked to the ministerial circulars of 1996 and 2006, which define the operating modalities, the methodologies used, the tools, the document of our work. The document is the decree, is a special decree that redefines the juvenile justice and the activity of USM, underlying the specialization. So the Presidential Decree 448 places at the center of the activity of the interest this system. But anyway, all systems concerning the minor, the social context, the family, the lawyer, the social services, territorial services, magistrates, and so on. All these systems interacted, work together in order to define the interventions concerning minors and the activity in the context. This Presidential Decree 448 bases the activity and the philosophy on the central element of the minor and on the responsibilization paths that the minor should follow in order to repair the damages and to recover a relationship that was interrupted with the collectivity. This decree envisages that the punishment is proportional to the crime, but it has a function of rehabilitation, and it gives back to the collectivity a person who has followed a social rehabilitation path. And this decree also has a path of repair. It is not a recent concept. It modified a bit the sense of our intervention, because let's say that this also concerns adults. When a crime is committed, there is a social pact that has broken concerning the social coexistence. So in order to repair this crime, so we have to recover and to repair the conflict. For example, in the projects for our minors, for our children, there is a special activity of repair to repair the damages following the crime by working for a community, by working free of charge for a community. So the juvenile criminal proceedings are based on some principles that control our work. All actors involved, so not only social workers, and there is the principle of suitability. All interventions must be adapted to the needs of development and of education of the children.
Diciamo, gli interventi sia della magistratura che degli operatori sociali devono essere finalizzati un po' ad una...
All action by the judges and by the social workers normally provide for some time for the minor within the criminal system. So obviously decisions may vary depending on the type of punishment which has to be given, depending on the type of crime, whether the child, the minor is a repeat offender, etc., etc. Another principle is to focus on education of the child. All actions related to the child must be based on their personal history, family situation, so that the entire education process or rehabilitation process has better chances of getting successful results. Now, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Carmela Polizzi, who will talk about, we can't, it's not very clear, actually. So the assessment is focal for all children who are involved in criminal actions, and in particular to unaccompanied foreign children. This is focal, this is key, because it aims at having it aims at having magistrates enforce measures that are suitable for that specific child. That is to say, that specific child with their resources and skills is actually able to support the entire criminal proceeding. This is very important, especially for foreign unaccompanied children who are even more vulnerable, who have a very unique life experiences that must be the subject of this individual assessment. This individual assessment is carried out by social workers. The social workers are sort of the director, the manager of the entire assessment, because to have meaningful assessment, it has to follow a multidisciplinary approach involving all services and all operators who are already taking care of the child or who need to be involved in order to provide an exhaustive individual assessment. This is another important point to be stressed. That is to say, individual assessment has to be based on a multidisciplinary approach. And in addition, it has to involve the guardian, the child's guardian, a cultural mediator, an interpreter if the child doesn't speak Italian well. And it has to involve all the elements and also all professionals who can provide an assessment about the various vulnerabilities of the child as well as their potentials, I would say. Potentials must also be examined and also capitalized upon. In addition, several background elements, if there is any support from the community, what the community is able to provide to the child, all these elements must be looked at, examined, and capitalized upon, leveraged, in other words, when trying to have an overall assessment. As I said before, strengths, resources for the child must also be included in this assessment. And at the same time, psychological support must be provided by social workers or by the host, for example, by the person hosting the child throughout the duration of the juvenile criminal proceedings. All this is very important, first of all, because the child has to be supported in general, but at the same time, the child must be properly informed about all the steps in the juvenile criminal proceedings. At the same time, the child must be aware of what's going on and what the child has to face within the child justice system. At the same time, the measures must be adequate for the child and can actually be borne by the child. At the same time, the criminal proceedings should not stop any education process that the child may be following. So assessment, individual assessment, as we said earlier, is important to develop and to build the right sentence, the right punishment. But at the same time, we must remember that juvenile criminal proceedings are not just looking at what happened, at the crime, at the offense, or most importantly, the juvenile criminal proceedings have to take care of the development of the person. So juvenile criminal proceedings must be an opportunity for education. Hence, the entire process must be customized. In other words, it is very important to provide support to the child from social workers, and also to control the child, not from a police point of view or law enforcement, but we need to have also flexible enforcement of the sentence, I would say, of the punishment. Interview is key in this, because through the interview we can actually build a relationship based on trust. Trust is key here again, because based on trust we can actually get a better cooperation from the vulnerable child. We can actually assume that the child is under significant stress because of the particular situation they are experiencing. But all this is also very important to build a customized education project, capitalizing on resources, potentials of the child, and also in order to build some goals for the life of the child. So the construction of an educational project obviously takes care of already existing schooling and other educational process, as well as takes into account the possibility of involving the child into positive actions to prevent any repeat crimes by the child. After the assessment and while building the relationship with the child, and through the entire action, if we can actually build this individual education project, all this is submitted to the judge for preliminary investigations, even before getting to the actual trial. In this way, we can actually suggest or propose to the judge some legal measures that will allow the child to implement this in this customized educational project. Actually, this tool is a legal tool provided for by the Code of Criminal Proceedings in Italy. We are quite proud of it because it's a totally new tool. Not all countries have it. That is to say, is the so-called suspended sentence. It's a criminal, I mean, this is provided, suspended sentence is provided for under the criminal code of proceedings. And by applying the suspended sentence based on probation and based on a project presented by social work, by social services, and based on a specific customized project, the magistrate suspends the sentence. Or any judgment is stopped to better assess the child, and waiting for the end of probation, waiting for the outcome of this, the implementation of this project. Actually, at the end of the entire period, it will be up to the magistrate to totally declare the child as free. This is very important because the child is not punished. We have just a suspension of the sentence, and throughout probation and throughout several other activities that can be educational activities, schooling, training, restorative, an entire restorative approach, where the child is also supported by psychologists, by social workers, to help the child better integrate into the community. All this shows actually that criminal proceeding was just an accident, was just something that happened by chance, let's say, and the child may come out of it through successful rehabilitation. This is done during probation, during the probation period, and if probation is successful, the magistrate will actually cancel the crime totally, as if the child had never committed the crime. So obviously, in order to have all the process, to be successful in the process, the child has to be made aware and must have ownership over the entire proceeding of the entire process. As we said earlier, this customized project is based on all the potential liabilities, resources the child has. The final end is to rehabilitate the child and to have the child integrated back into their community, and to achieve a successful social and economic inclusion. You have 5 more minutes. What are the strengths and weaknesses in our system? The strength, for sure, the criminal trial for children, for unaccompanied foreign children who are followed by us because of crimes committed by them. This is a very specific procedure. Everything is totally unique and customized on the needs of the child. So we have a whole team of highly trained professionals, and this is a strength. That obviously another strength is the support and tutoring to the child throughout the criminal proceedings. Another important aspect, another strength is the involvement of the child throughout the criminal proceedings. Also, probation is very important. Probation has to be agreed upon by the child. And also, it's also an opportunity for education to the child. So this could actually, it is an opportunity for education. Then what about weaknesses? We can say that our youth justice system is a bit weak, at least at the beginning, especially for unaccompanied foreign children. When there is the report to the police, for example, within 72 hours, the child must be assessed for the preliminary investigation judge to issue for example, an initial decision about whether their child has to be in prison, for example. This is a weak point because first, these are unaccompanied children, so they have no family, no relatives. Relatives cannot be involved. They are foreign. They are foreigners. So again, there are problems concerning the language, the understanding. But having passed this initial step and the children, for example, are sent to some closed facilities, for example. At this point, the system is highly flexible, so allows us to implement many different measures. Another weakness is a lack of sufficient awareness and a lack of proper training by social workers and by community workers in general. Very, very briefly, I would like to tell you about a case I followed in person. Ibrahima, he is an unaccompanied foreign child. He committed a crime. He committed a crime within the community. A disturbance of order and quiet hours. Normally, the children we follow have committed only minor crimes. These children are vulnerable, are frightened. They're still very much distressed by their previous experiences, like, for example, this case, Ibrahima in particular, he arrived to Italy when he was only 16, so he was angry at what had happened to him, and hence they claim for even minimal rights within the various facilities. And when these rights are not fully met, they become aggressive. They become aggressive with various operators. So it was not easy with him, because obviously there was the COVID pandemic, so we only had an online relation. He had experienced a previous trauma where his friend died during the voyage at sea. However, gradually, with patience, with a slow building and development of our relationship, and working in particular on trust building and on a relation based on a very customized report. Actually, we were able together to develop an individual educational project, which was also submitted in order to ask for suspended sentence and to start for his probation. It was actually a big challenge for him to continue school and also to pursue further education and training. Actually, after 5 months of probation, the outcome is certainly successful and positive. I still have a good rapport with Ibrahim. I'm still his reference person, because throughout the process we have implemented together and together with other operators working in network, we have actually worked together to support Ibrahim in pursuing further education. and he worked. He had an on-the-job training job in a restaurant, and after that he got a temporary job. Without that, he could have not renewed his stay permit. So he was able to renew his stay permit thanks to the participation of all various operators who together with me have supported Ibrahim. We are still working with him to help him ensure all the rights he is entitled to. That's it. I think I'm finished.